You've probably noticed it, the strange fatigue that doesn't come from work itself, but from what the work touches inside you. An empath doesn't just complete tasks. You absorb atmospheres, unspoken tensions, the invisible weight between people. And when your work lives too far from meaning, it starts to feel like you're leaking energy into something that never fills you back. Carl Jung once hinted that the soul resists what is not aligned. And for you, that resistance feels like quiet exhaustion. There's a subtle difference between being tired and being drained. Tiredness can be healed by rest, but drained, that's what happens when your inner world says, "This is not mine." Empaths often stay too long in roles where they are needed, but not nourished. You feel useful, even essential, but something deeper begins to fade. The question is not, what are you good at? But what lets you remain whole while doing it? You might have learned early that your sensitivity is something to manage, to hide, to protect. So you adapted. You became reliable, perceptive, emotionally intelligent. Perfect for workplaces that need harmony, healing, or quiet problem solving. But here's the hidden trigger. When your value becomes tied only to what you give, you forget to ask what the work gives you. And slowly, your energy becomes a one-way current. There is work that consumes empaths, and there is work that awakens them. The difference is almost invisible from the outside. It's not about job titles. It's about whether your inner world is invited or suppressed. Work that gives meaning allows you to feel without drowning, to contribute without dissolving. It feels like a quiet yes in your body, even when it's challenging. Think of the moments when you lost track of time, not because you were overwhelmed, but because you were present. That's a clue. Empaths thrive where attention becomes devotion, where listening, creating, guiding, or understanding isn't a task, but a natural state. These are not always the loudest or most rewarded paths, but they carry something rare. They return your energy instead of stealing it. There's also a shadow side. Some empaths are drawn to chaotic environments, places full of emotion, crisis, or imbalance. Feels familiar, almost magnetic. You become the stabilizer, the one who holds it together. But deep down, this isn't always purpose. It can be a pattern. A repetition of old emotional landscapes where your worth was tied to how much you could endure. Meaningful work doesn't require you to sacrifice your nervous system. It doesn't demand that you constantly override your intuition. Instead, it sharpens it. You begin to trust your reactions, your sensitivities, your subtle no. And in that space, your energy changes. You're no longer surviving your work, you're in dialogue with it. There's a quiet truth many empaths avoid. Not every helping role is healing for you. Sometimes the most aligned path is not where you are needed most, but where you are met, where your depth is recognized, not exploited, where your presence matters as much as your output. And then something shifts. Work stops being a place where you recover from yourself and becomes a place where you meet yourself more fully. Your sensitivity turns into precision. Your awareness becomes clarity. You stop asking, "Can I handle this?" and begin asking, "Does this expand me?" You were never meant to fit into work that requires you to feel less. The real path is quieter, more subtle. It asks you to listen to the fatigue, the pull, the resistance, the small sparks of aliveness. Meaningful work for an empath isn't found by force. It's recognized the moment your energy stops running away and starts returning home to you. There comes a moment when you realize it was never just about the job. It was always about the exchange. Where does your energy go? And what comes back? Because empaths don't burn out from effort alone. You burn out from misalignment repeated too many times. And when you finally choose differently, it doesn't feel loud or dramatic. It feels like relief, like something inside you has stopped bracing. That's when you know you're no longer working against your nature. You're finally working with it. There is a kind of work where silence is not empty, it is alive. You notice it immediately. No constant pressure to perform, no invisible demand to shrink or harden. In these spaces, your sensitivity becomes an instrument, not a burden. You read the room, but you are not consumed by it. You contribute, but you remain intact. And something inside you relaxes, as if it finally recognizes the environment as safe. You may be drawn to work that involves people, but not all people-centered work is the same. There are roles where you must absorb endlessly, and roles where you can guide without losing yourself. The difference is subtle. One pulls you into others' emotional storms, the other allows you to stand near them, grounded. Meaningful work for you often lives in that boundary, close enough to feel, distant enough to remain whole. Creation holds a special kind of energy for empaths. Writing, designing, building, imagining, these are not escapes. They are translations. You take what is unseen, what is felt but not spoken, and give it form. In this process, your inner world doesn't overwhelm you. It flows through you. And instead of draining you, it clears you. There is also meaning in quiet contribution. Not everything that nourishes the soul is visible or praised. Sometimes it's the work behind the scenes, the unseen structure, the gentle organization of chaos. Empaths often underestimate how powerful their subtle influence is. You don't always need to be at the center to make something meaningful. You shape the space itself. But there's a trigger hidden in responsibility. You may feel compelled to take on more than you should because you can. You sense what's needed before it's said. You anticipate problems. You fill emotional gaps. And slowly, your role expands beyond what was ever asked of you. Work that gives energy has limits. It does not silently grow into something that consumes you. The right work allows for rhythm. Not constant output, not endless urgency, but cycles. Periods of deep focus, followed by space to breathe. Empaths are deeply attuned to rhythm, even if you don't consciously think about it. When work respects that natural flow, your energy stabilizes. When it ignores it, you begin to fragment. You may notice that certain environments amplify your clarity. Nature, calm spaces, intentional conversations. These are not luxuries for you. They are fuel. Work that aligns with you often integrates these elements, even in small ways. A moment of quiet, a slower pace, a deeper interaction. These are not inefficiencies. They are where your strength lives. There is also truth in autonomy. When you have the ability to choose how you engage, how you structure your time, how deeply you go, your energy shifts. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. Empaths thrive when they are not constantly interrupted, redirected, or controlled. Freedom, even in small amounts, restores your sense of self within the work. Meaningful work often feels honest. There is no constant inner negotiation, no quiet voice asking, "Why am I here?" You may still face challenges, uncertainty, even difficulty, but beneath it, there is alignment, a sense that your presence matters in a way that is not forced. You are not pretending to care, you do care naturally. And somewhere along the way, you stop searching for the perfect role. You begin to recognize a deeper pattern. Work that gives you meaning and energy is not defined by titles or expectations. It is defined by how it meets your inner world. Whether it allows you to feel without breaking, to give without disappearing, to exist without constant defense. Because in the end, the question was never, what should you do? It was always, where can you be fully yourself and still have energy left to live? You begin to sense it in the smallest moments, the way your body leans in or quietly pulls away. Work that gives you energy doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it's just the absence of resistance, a task that feels simple but leaves you more present than before, as if your energy is not being spent but circulated. There is a quiet power in work where you don't have to translate yourself, where your way of seeing, feeling, and understanding is already the language of the space. You're not explaining your depth, you're using it. And in that, something rare happens. You stop monitoring yourself and start being. Empaths often mistake intensity for meaning. If it's emotional, complex, overwhelming, it must matter. But true alignment is not chaotic. It is steady. It doesn't spike your nervous system. It settles it. The work that nourishes you feels less like a storm and more like a current you can trust. You may notice that your energy rises when there is authenticity involved. Real conversations, honest creation, work that touches something true, even if it's small. You don't need constant excitement. You need realness. Without it, your energy slowly disconnects, like a signal fading. There is also something about pace. When everything moves too fast, your awareness cannot anchor. You begin to skim the surface of your own abilities. But when work allows depth over speed, your sensitivity becomes precision. You see what others miss. You connect what seems unrelated. And suddenly, your energy is not scattered, it is focused. Somewhere along the way, you may have learned to ignore your limits, to push through discomfort, to override the subtle, "this is too much." But meaningful work does not require you to betray those signals. It teaches you to trust them. And in that trust, your energy stops leaking through invisible cracks. You might feel most alive when your work creates impact that can be felt, not just measured. A shift in someone's perspective, a moment of clarity, a sense of calm you helped bring into a space. These are not always things that can be tracked, but your body knows, and it responds with energy, not exhaustion. There is also a hidden nourishment in working with intention rather than obligation. When you choose your actions consciously, even simple tasks gain a different weight. You're not just completing, you're engaging, and that engagement transforms how your energy moves through the day. Empaths often flourish where there is meaning beneath the surface, where something deeper is being built, understood, or healed. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Even quiet, consistent work can carry that depth. What matters is that you can feel the purpose, even if no one else talks about it. And then one day, you realize something subtle but undeniable. You're no longer counting the hours until you can leave. You're not escaping your work, you're inhabiting it. Not because it's perfect, but because it meets you somewhere real. That's when work stops being something you survive and becomes something that quietly gives you back to yourself. There are moments when you notice it without trying. The work feels almost weightless, even when it's not easy. Not because it demands less from you, but because it asks for the right parts of you. Your attention sharpens instead of scattering. Your energy doesn't spike and crash. It hums, steady, like something aligned beneath the surface. You begin to recognize that meaning is not always loud or visible. It often hides in subtle coherence, in work where your inner state and your outer actions don't contradict each other, where you are not splitting yourself into roles, masks, and expectations. There is a quiet integrity there, and it feeds you. Some environments invite you to close, others invite you to open. You've felt both. The draining ones tighten your chest, speed your thoughts, make you hyper-aware in a way that exhausts. The nourishing ones expand you, even in silence. You don't feel watched, you feel placed, as if you belong to the rhythm of that space. There is a kind of work where listening becomes your strength, not your vulnerability, where your ability to sense what isn't being said is not dismissed, but valued. In those spaces, you don't need to prove your usefulness. You become part of something that already understands the depth you carry. And then there is the realization that not all structure is restrictive. Some structure actually protects your energy. Clear expectations, honest communication, defined roles. These are not limits. They are boundaries that allow you to relax. Without them, you begin to overextend, to fill gaps that were never yours to hold. You might notice that your energy deepens when there is room for reflection, when you're not constantly reacting, but occasionally pausing, thinking, integrating. Empaths don't just process faster, they process deeper. And work that respects that depth becomes a place where your insight can actually form instead of being rushed past. There's also something about resonance. Certain tasks, topics, or purposes simply match you. You can't always explain why, but when you engage with them, your energy increases instead of depleting. It feels like recognition, as if something inside you says, "Yes, this is familiar," in a way that matters. You may have been taught to chase productivity, to measure your worth by output, speed, visible results. But your energy doesn't follow those rules. It responds to connection, to depth, to authenticity. And when those are missing, no amount of achievement fully compensates for the quiet emptiness that follows. In meaningful work, even effort feels different. You can be tired at the end of the day, but it's a full tiredness, not a hollow one. The kind that comes from engagement, not depletion. You rest, and something inside you actually recovers instead of bracing for the next day. And slowly, almost without noticing, your relationship with work transforms. It stops being a place where you negotiate your sensitivity and becomes a place where your sensitivity is the compass. Not something to manage, but something that gently, consistently leads you toward where your energy wants to stay. There comes a quieter layer beneath everything you've explored. A place where the question is no longer, what work suits me? But, what kind of life does my energy want to live through my work? And you begin to notice, the answer is not a role, not a title, not even a path. It is a feeling of rightness that follows you when you are no longer betraying your own sensitivity. You start choosing differently almost without effort. Not from fear, not from pressure, but from a subtle inner calibration. Something either expands you or it contracts you. And for the first time, you trust that signal. Work becomes less about proving and more about aligning. Less about surviving and more about remaining. There is a quiet courage in this. Because meaningful work for an empath often looks different from what the world rewards loudly. It may be slower, more intentional, less chaotic, but it carries a depth that cannot be faked. And over time, that depth becomes its own kind of stability, one that doesn't collapse when circumstances shift. And then, almost unexpectedly, you feel it. Your energy is no longer something you constantly have to protect. It becomes something you can use, direct, offer, without losing yourself in the process. Work stops feeling like a place where you disappear. It becomes a place where you arrive. In the end, nothing external defines it. Not the position, not the recognition, not even the outcome. Only this quiet, undeniable truth that what you do no longer drains the life out of you, but gently, steadily returns you to it. If something in this resonated with you, I'd be curious to hear what kind of work truly gives you energy. Share it in the comments. And if you want to explore this path deeper, stay close and subscribe. There's more waiting for you here. Thank you for watching.